Hi, she's Trixie and I'm Sarah, and this is our Yarn World, a place where we come to share the love of yarn crafts and all the things that it gives to us. This is coming 2 weeks after our last video. We had to take a hiatus last week due to a lot of illness that ended up coming upon us. My mom got sick, and then both of my kids have gotten sick, and it's just been going through everywhere here.
Right, but they're saying it's a cold.
They're saying it's just a general cold, but with everything going on with COVID, it was just it was really hard to find people that were willing to help.
Yeah.
My kids both had to get COVID tests done, and even though they were negative, the doctors didn't want to see them out of a scare. And so it's just been a really, really weird, because I feel like, I don't know, it's one of those things where it reminds me of like before COVID, you would almost be like influenza B shots were going everywhere, but that one random person that would get influenza A, and so everyone's just like, well, this is the flu, but why is this not working? And then you're just sitting there being like, it feels like a really specific cold.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it hits worse at night.
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, is that my mom and all the people that I know that have this, including my kids, during the day it's tolerable.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as nighttime hits, fevers, chills, passing out, coughing, drainage, everything hits a peak, and it's not even from sitting or laying down yet. It's like as soon as like the temperature changes or a certain time of night hits or whatever, the pressure or whatever it is of it being nighttime, it like triggers the illness.
Exactly.
And it makes the night times the worst. Like, one of my friends' kids also got this, and he's been struggling with fevers the whole entire night, like shaking, like freaking out, like his eyes went red.
See, and I'm not dealing with fevers, but I can't sleep.
Yeah.
So.
And maybe it's just because you're older, and so your body's a little bit more prepared.
But my lungs are taking a hit on this one, because it's
draining.
Well, the draining plus my voice is gone, and so excuse that. But we wanted to be with you today. We wanted to share what we have done, and I have been working hard, and my pile is way up here, so we've got a lot to show you today. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get started, we're not going to be able to get it all into the video. So
yeah, we do have a lot that we want to share, but we're probably going to have to share it as we're doing show and tell, just because of the amount of projects that have been accomplished in this 2-week period. So how about we start with you?
Yep. I ordered a Furls Odyssey hook, and I did this because I watched somebody on YouTube go through all the different hooks and tell her, do a review on them, and she just was up and down in favor of the Furls. And so I thought, you know what, I've heard a lot of good things about it, and even though it is an expensive hook, it really is, you can get your favorite size and your favorite color, and it comes to you, and it's really, really neat how they wrap everything. But so I was able to get a 10 millimeter hook, and in my favorite color, pink, and it's really, you can't even see it really, but it has a shimmer shine to it too, and I really love it. And it is heavier than a regular hook, but it's so worth it. And I was able to get a whole Lapghan done with it, and I'm working on my second one with this particular hook, and I'm really loving it. But to start out, I wanted to show you that I made a little scarf for myself out of, I don't even know the yarn. It's a shimmery, shiny yarn. We got it at Joann's. It was the same yarn that I used for the wind spinners, and I only had a little bit left, so I made myself a scarf to go underneath my good coat, and just to wrap around the back of my neck. I mean, it's just really thin.
I do believe this is Red Heart yarn.
But it's just enough to fit right in the collar of my coat and keep my throat and the back of my neck just enough, and I don't have to have all the extra with it. It's just enough. So that's one thing I made during this 2 weeks. Another, I've got three blankets done. So, and they're just...
Do you want to show off the one that you were working on the last time we were first?
Okay. We will do this in the order that I did them.
I just was thinking that might be a little bit more conducive for them.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. I should have had them in the order. But I call this the 70s because it's all in 70s colors. And it's so fun. This bottom one, Sarah said it looked like hot dogs with relish on it. Because it's browns and that green that comes with the relish. And this one reminds me of Charlie Brown's shirt. So this one was really fun. I just picked all these random colors, and when I was doing it, it was like, oh wow, this is 70s. So are you gonna put it on that side?
Yeah, I think that would be best.
I had some bulky yarn, and I decided I was gonna use that up. This is out of the box that my friend had donated, out of one of the 3 boxes that she donated to us. And yeah, and so I was able to make a bulky one. Now with this blanket, I chained 81, went back, and it's 80 across and about as tall as I am, or maybe up to my nose, because I was running out of the bulky. So I just did it as much as I had the yarn for. But so how did this one go? It's not as tall.
Here we go.
But it's got all the different colors in it of the bulky that I had on hand. Now, I usually just get yarn from people who have been kind enough to give it to me, or from thrift stores. And one of our friends just recently got a job at the Rescue Mission thrift store.
Just down the road from us.
Yeah, and she brought a bag of bulky yarn as well, and I went through that, and so now I can make another bulky. And then I've got one more to show you, and just all kinds of scrappy goodness, and just all the different kind of colors that I could find that would go together, 2 by 2 all the way down. And just it was just fun. And I'm working on another scrappy right now, just having fun with the colors on that one. Now I have with these 3, and I have 3 in my room, I don't have anybody to give them to. So what I'm thinking, I'm losing my voice worse. I'm thinking that I would like to give them to the homeless around our community. I'm gonna see what I can do to help them during the winter and being cold, whether I have to go to a mission shelter, or if I find someone on the street or on the corner holding a sign or something. I know there's enough people out there that could use the warmth of a good blanket. And since I don't have anybody else to give them to, that's been in my heart to do that. The one other thing that I wanted to show you is Sarah has been talking about her canvas bags. Well, when we first discovered these, I had gotten one for myself, and I wrote on mine. I'm not going to be able to read it to you.
I can read it.
So I'm going to have Sarah do it because I'm losing my voice each time I talk now.
Okay, so the canvas bags that we're talking about are these. They're like a foot by 10-inch zippered canvas bags. Now I'm showing you the plain side. There is a written side right here, and this is what it says. It says, crochet takes a simple string of yarn and turns it into fabric. This art of taking something simple and turning it into a masterpiece has warmed many bodies and hearts for centuries. Designs can be simple to incredibly intricate lacework that takes hours upon hours to create. It is very well
that is not my
summary.
saying.
Yeah, she found this amongst other crafters, and I think that that's a really well written summary of the craft, and it's a very fun use of the front of a project bag to put your love for the craft on the front of it in fun ways.
And that's we wanted to exhibit how you can design some of your bags if you wanted to. Yeah. And that was just mine when we first started out. When we found these canvas bags, I wanted something, words mean a lot to me. And so I just thought, I'm just going to write something on there. I'm going to find a message about crochet, and the best one I'll write on the bag itself. So just in case you get your own bags, now you know you can decorate them any way you want. So that's fun. So
for my projects in this time span, so I've been completing an order. The last time you saw me, I was in the midst of making a hat, the brown and black hat. And that has already been given to the client, but I do have some photos.
Okay.
So pretty much what I was doing was I had cast on 100 stitches to circular needles. It was a 4-ply worsted weight acrylic yarn on 5mm hooks or needles, and I worked in the round 60 stitches in one color, and then 60 stitches into the next, not 60 stitches, 60 rows, and then 60 rows into the next color. And on each end, on the end that I still was working on, I divided into my double-ended needles that were of the same size. I made sure it was a 5-pair, a 5-pair double-ended needle set. And so I slipped on 25 stitches onto each double pointed, and on each end, depending on how I wanted it to decrease, whether it would be slip, slip, knit, or knit two together, on each end of the double pointed, I would decrease for 7 rows, just straight 7 rows, and it created enough decreases to be able to just pull through the rest of the stitches with the tail end of the yarn so it could cinch. I recognize that this isn't necessarily a beautiful topping off to a hat, but then on the other side, what I did, because you're just envisioning this big tube right now, I picked up stitches on the starting row as well, 25 on each needle point, so that would be the full 100, and I did the same. And when I cinched both ends, I folded it in on itself, so it would be a double-sided hat. Depending on how you flipped it out, it'd either be brown on the front or black on the front, or brown in the inside or black on the inside.
Yeah.
And I was making this for a gentleman with a rather large head, and he's bald. So the winters are very cold for him, and so he wanted it extra warm. He wasn't nervous about design. He just wanted it to make sure that it was big enough and comfortable enough that it wasn't going to just fall off of his head.
And cover his ears.
And cover his ears and reach his neck. Very specific. And so
that's nice.
I know that this is going to be, it's against my steering wheel because I was just about to drop it off to the customer before I was taking, so this one I thought to actually be like, oh, I want to be able to record this. So you can see that that's my hand. This hat's a rather large hat. And then you can see how that is a complete knit going from outside to inside because I just tucked it in.
That is really nice.
And it was rather thick, and it definitely pleased the customer, so I've been told. As well as I started on the other project that this customer requested, which was a hat for her. So this was her husband's hat, and for her, she has long hair. And
long red hair.
Yes, long red hair. And she wanted one of those hats that had a hole at the top to pull her hair through. I think they're called like messy bun hats. And she really is in the favor of anything that has purple in it. And so my mom had found me some yarn. Sorry. So pretty much, I know, I have a lot of needles on this one. I am working in the circular. I have 2 circular needles actively working right now because of the way that the decreases are. I was originally having double pointed needles. There was a 94 stitch cast on. I really wish I had done 93. It would have been a lot simpler, but I needed the even count to make the perfect 1x1 rib, so it's fine. But I'm not following a pattern for this one either. This is just something that I kind of came up with in my head, just like the other hat. But I figured out a decrease pattern that I'm finding is making a very, very complementary pattern with this. What do you call this sort of yarn?
Variegated.
Variegated yarn. Because the decreases that I had tried to do were similar to the other hat.
Okay.
It was not looking pretty.
Oh.
And I don't, can you see the decrease? You see the decreases coming in on each other? Best way to put this is I'm making darts.
Okay.
So like in sewing terms, I'm making darts with this hat.
Yeah.
So I've evened out the stitches. That's where all these specific markers are. And what I am doing is I am creating 3 individual darts to even it out, that in very specific spacing I am creating decreases that are coming at a point to each other. And once I reach the point, I'm hoping that that is going to be exactly where I start to finish off the hat. What I plan to do is to have, I want it to be like a beanie that's fitted. And right now it is. It's part of the reason I have it on 2 double pointed needles, is the sake for the looser aspect of the plastic right here, so that I can be able to try on the hat.
Yeah.
And see how it's fitting as I'm working on it.
Yeah.
The other needles would not have allowed me to do this. But as you can see, I'm working the decrease in. And once I have enough stitches, I'm not going to pull it in and cinch it. What I'm going to do is I want it to have, my goal is to have 30 stitches left, specifically once I reach the crown of the head. And I'm not going to pull it through. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get an elastic. And when I'm going to take a yarn needle and I'm going to go through the stitches as if I were creating stitches and wrapping them around the hair elastic so that when she pulls her hair through, if she needs to extend the hole, she'll be able to pull her hair through and then it will come in back onto her hair so that it will be the top, or like the bun or the ponytail can come through and still hold the shape of the beanie.
That's awesome.
So hopefully you will see this as a finished project on the camera. But, don't be afraid of trying patterns on your own if you have a vision in your head. A lot of it is math, and I'm not a fan of math, I'm not gonna lie. But there's just a reality to if you can understand your own dimensions for a project, and you know how you want the decreases to look, all you have to do is try to map it out on a piece of paper and try it. And if it doesn't work, you rip it out and you try it again. I've had to rip this hat down to at least right here, several times.
Okay.
And it's a lot simpler than you would think. And I've had to learn how to use some of my stitch, these are stitch finders or stitch savers, so much more. So there's a crochet hook on this end and a knitting needle on this end. And this thing is a 5mm for both sides. This thing saved many headaches on this project because I can take a stitch out and I can let it run itself all the way down to the problem row if I have missed a row, and I can knit back up.
That's so awesome.
And save stitches or change the way that I wanted the decrease to look without having to rip out full rows. Or I would have to go back on the rows. And you want to know how simple that is? I don't know if any of you have ever thought of this, because knitting is a hassle to have to rip out, because it's not the same as crochet where the stitches hold themselves.
Yeah.
It requires the needles. All you take is, if you find the row that you want, you just put the needles through that row by picking up stitches. See, look at, you're just picking up stitches.
Oh, yeah.
On that row, all the way through, and then you let the yarn go and you just rip it out until you get to that row, and then the stitches are already saved on the needles, and you've just gone back down to that row.
That is clever.
So don't ever worry about things like that. All you have to do is, I guess the old saying is, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
If you have circular needles, even if you're a traditional knitter where you prefer the straight line needles,
right,
just know that there are ways that you can save a row or just work down to a row by either taking a yarn needle and just even throwing yarn through that whole entire row, and then you can rip it out and then recast on.
Okay.
Or you can get circular needles and just work your way through, and that way you don't have to worry about stuff like that. That's how me as a creator figures it out in my head without having to feel like I'm wasting my time.
She tries so many more things than I would ever think to do. But she is a very creative person. She can think of these things in her head. But then again, she gets that from her dad. I mean, her dad built this house, and all he had was a vision in his head. And he put it down on paper. I still couldn't see it, even when he had just the floor with no shell of a house here, just the floor on. And I'm thinking, wow, that house doesn't look very big. He put the walls on, and I will tell you something. Walls
like something
make things bigger. I don't know how that works, but it does, and it was amazing. And she's the same way. She can think of something and it works.
Oh, thank you, Mom. During this last couple of weeks, a couple weeks ago I mentioned when I was doing a lot of my show and tells that I had started crafts for myself and then got a whole bunch of
Orders.
So I had to put my stuff to the side. But I left works on my needles and I'm sitting there being like, I kind of wanted to do this project. You know what I mean? When you're itching for a specific project and you're just sitting there being like, yeah, I'll get to it eventually. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's a boat neck sweater. That's what I'm working on. And it was a very basic design. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I'm not going to lie because I've already deterred from the pattern.
Well, isn't that what we were just talking about?
Pretty much where I went wrong right from the get-go was I went too long on the sweater. So this pattern was based off of sizes and they wanted you to pretty much, they didn't indicate how many rows you had to do to get it to receive or achieve a certain size. They'd just be like, cast on this many stitches if you want it to be this size and then knit until it's this many inches.
Okay.
Instead of, it's going to take this many rows to get to this size.
Right.
So me being a smart butt, thought I could gauge my stitches with one of now what's stupid is I had this. One of these gaugers. Be able to see how many stitches I have per inch per width and if my gauge is even. I had this in my toolkit. No. No. Because like I said, I thought I was smart. I just literally, instead of seeing this, I was like, that's funny. And I took my other little toolkit. Like I said, my mom, brags about me being a smart person when it comes to crafting. But doing it, you get a bit of a complex because you think that you have this set in your head and then you work on it and then you're just like, why did I do this to myself? So this little toolkit that I have, I love it, but it had just a regular tape measure in it and that's what I used. That's where I went wrong.
Oh, okay.
Who knows? Maybe the gauge thing wouldn't have worked. Maybe it was just me. It's a good possibility too. Pretty much, I did enough rows where I figured out what an inch looked like on my gauge. Now, as my mom can see, I have pretty even stitches.
Yeah.
I'm a pretty even knitter. I know my tension pretty well. And I thought it's about 7 rows to an inch. That's what created an inch for me. I needed 14 inches before I could start the decreases for the arms.
Okay.
Because what it is, it's a front panel, a back panel, and then you do the arms, and then it's supposed to be a wide boat neck. So I measured it, and I figured out that about 1 inch was about 7 rows. Instead of trying it again to make sure that that was true, I was like, nope, that's what it is. So in my head, it was like every 7 rows, I put a stitch marker to be able to count how many inches I had.
Right.
I reached God knows how many rows. And I'm like, well, if my math is right, this works. And I go this and it's like 16 inches long. And I'm like, no, I've spent too much time on this. I'm not gonna shorten it. The pattern started to confuse me when it came to the decrease. Because it's supposed to be a gradual, most sweaters that have the front and back panel, they have a little bit sharper of a decrease right here before it becomes gradual for this curve, because obviously you have to make a very flat end for the armpit section to be able to make it a little bit more seamless look. The pattern wasn't making sense to me. Now, it was a very cheap pattern, and I think that it was thinking that you were smarter than I am. It's funny. And I just couldn't figure out what it was trying to say. I just couldn't. So I was like, I think I know what it's trying to say. So I did what I did. And I realized after a while, this isn't looking right. But I was dedicated at this point. You know,
That's a lot of stitching to not be dedicated.
Right? That's the whole point.
Yeah, that is a lot of stitching.
I'm still scared I'm going to have to rip it out.
No, I would just go with it.
I don't know if this sweater's going to fit me. That's the scare.
Oh my goodness.
So, we're going to see, because this seems like a lot of decreases. So the decrease is this much.
I think it'll work.
Maybe. Again, I need it to be complete to be able to see it.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing, is I have to make another one. And then make arms. Before I know whether I did it wrong.
Yay.
Ain't that fun? It's just like, hey, let's see how long we'll see until we figure out whether Sarah's an idiot or not.
I never would say you're an idiot. You are dedicated, though. I mean, that is a lot of knitting.
It was 90 stitches across, and I just don't know if it's gonna fit. And this is supposed to be a large.
Wow.
And it was the same weight of yarn. I don't know. It's one of those things where, like...
Maybe blocking will help.
And that's kind of the thing here, is I think I'm just going to wide it out deliberately and loosen the stitches this way, because length I'm not having problem with.
Right.
Not after adding all that. Which means that the back also has to meet the front, by the way, which means I have to put all this extra work in that way too. And by the time I reached a certain decrease, I was done. I was like, you know what? I'm not achieving what it wants me to do. I'm done right here, and I'm just going to finish it off. I'm enjoying the project. You know, for as much as I'm goofing off and just, you know, doing this, I really do enjoy this project, because as someone who wants to make clothing, following other people's patterns allows me to see what they were thinking and creating their pattern.
Yeah.
And as someone who wants to be able to create patterns or create clothes, it allows me to be able to see and learn from them, to be able to craft and cultivate and see what's going to work out without me having to waste as much of my energy on it. But it's really hard when you're not following the pattern. They had so many different ways that you could decrease. They had 4 different decrease patterns that you were supposed to follow at the same time.
See, that would have lost me.
And that just didn't compute. And some of them were saying that you were supposed to decrease 0 times the whole entire time. And I was like...
Do you think it was for the different sizes?
No, they applied to all the sizes.
Oh, well,
because there was a scale, because of the way that they operate under the sizes. They have parentheses that separate what how many times a number is. So they had, I think they had an extra small, a medium, a large, an extra large. I think it was like that.
Yeah.
And so because of the format as to how you were how they had the scales of the sizes listed, they would have this chart that was the same outlook but with stitches added in. So like to make it extra small, it'd be like 60 cast on, 70, 80, 90. Well, that format also equaled through to, depending on your size, and you would count into where yours would be to be a large, and then you'd follow that many times. You would do whatever they were saying to complete the pattern. They have 4 different ways that you could do the decreasing for the arms. 4 different ways, and 2 of the ways said 0 times. And I just was, it might genuinely be my ignorance when it comes to patterns, when it comes to knitting, and I'm still learning. Again, I think I will be able to still make this work no matter what. You know what I mean? Like, if I...
You know enough where you can figure it out or fudge it.
Fudge it. That's the best way of putting it. I will figure out something to make this still work out in the end. Regardless of whether it's meaning I have to block it ridiculously, or if I have to do my other arms myself and not follow their pattern, I will make it still fall where it's going to be wearable.
Yeah.
I just was trying to follow a pattern and not have to do it myself.
Right.
There's sometimes I, even as a creator, just want to follow something I don't have to think about. It's already thought out for me.
Right.
It's relaxing, but you know. So I got the first panel done for that during this time because I enjoy crafting and I enjoy what I do for making my money and filling orders, but you also have to be able to do the craft for yourself as well.
Yeah.
At times, because it's just like randomly you made that scarf for yourself.
Yeah.
It was just enough to be like, this is for me. I'm still able to get pleasure out of my
I will
labor.
tell you though, going down to a smaller hook after using a 10 millimeter for as long as I've used it seemed like so tiny. It was so tiny. But you know what? It was fun. And I was able to do 4 rows of the silver, 4 rows of the purple, 4 rows of the silver, and be done.
I can't wait.
And I had myself a scarf.
I can't wait till I do the doily with whatever gauge, small
oh
gauge.
my gosh. I can't even imagine.
You're gonna have a complex.
Yeah. Now, I did want to mention one more thing. By the time this airs, this will already be said and done. But as we speak to you right now, it is Wednesday the 23rd, and this is airing on Friday the 25th. But right in between there, Thursday the 24th, is my husband and my 26th anniversary. And so we'll be spending the day together. He's off gallivanting right now because he took some time off for today through Sunday. And we were supposed to go to Ohio, visit my uncle and my cousins, but with this cold I did not want to bring that to my uncle or my cousins, and so we'll reschedule that when I'm better.
We still can spend some time together.
Yes, but I'm just I'm just thinking, 26 years, that's pretty good for being married nowadays, and I don't see any end to it. So I just wanted to say that I don't know if he'll ever watch this or anything, but it's been a good time so far, and let's just keep it going. And so I think with that we should do our scripture. Sarah found one today, so we're gonna let her look it up. And
I know the scripture from a long time ago. An old youth pastor, or it was like a young adults leader for me at my age that I was at the time. It was one of his favorite verses, and it came to me today. But it's Micah 7 verses 7 and 8. His favorite verse was 8, but I put 7 in there for us to share. It's in the New Living Translation, and it says, "As for me, I look to the Lord for help. I wait confidently for God to save me, and my God will certainly hear me. Do not gloat over me, my enemies, for though I fall, I will rise again. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light.
Yes.
Now, I am someone who doesn't just take a verse and just assume that it applies to me. Like, when God gives a verse to a prophet, I expect it meant something to that prophet differently than how I'm interpreting it. Because I know a lot of people that will take a verse out of context and then they believe it means something and it kind of takes away what it is meaning. Truly meant in the moment. When I see people in these stories and they reach out to the Lord and they're like, I truly believe, I am so confident in you. You know, enemies, you can do what you got, but like, just because it's hard right now doesn't mean my confidence in the Lord is wavering. I find strength in seeing other people's relationship with God, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you see other people's testimonies, it really can build you up.
Yeah.
And I get a lot of strength out of this, just knowing, you know, the victory is God's.
Yeah.
And the confidence that this person had in their God truly makes, you know, you question. We get into places. Now, I was actually in another spot in the Bible earlier. I was Psalms 48, I think. I think it's Psalms 48, where David's crying out to God, being, but he's crying out to himself, being like, it was a really hard chapter. It's talking just about, you know, like, I've been feasting on my tears for days. Mm. I've been struggling and like, you know, but then it would be like, you know, soul, how dare you be downcast? How dare you? Like, you have to re-engage yourself, be self-aware enough to be like, no, change perspectives here, change gears here, you know, and this verse really reminds me, you know, don't gloat over me, my enemies, for though I fall, I will rise again. Though I sit in darkness, the Lord will be my light. There's an aspect of you can acknowledge where you're at and the circumstance you're going through without giving it the power.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a level of truth that you have to address your situation without being in denial of optimism, because optimism can be a lie just as much as pessimism is a lie. But there's an aspect of, okay, I'm going to address this. This is true. But you do not have more power than the God that I have.
Yeah.
And the God that I serve. And the promises he's made to me.
And the Lord will help because he's the Lord of all. And he is, the confidence that we have is our true faith statement. Mm-hmm. If you have confidence in the Lord, that is faith in itself.
And everyone has a different story, and sometimes we wonder why bad things happen. Mm-hmm. We can't, you know, there's no perfect formula in our walks with God that are going to keep us away from Satan and the things that he can do to derail us or make us question our faith. But there is a level of God works it all out. And if we really do believe in him, it doesn't mean that we don't have the right to wonder why. You know, he might be the God of everything and there should be a level of reverence there, but it's not like we're in sin to wonder why things happen.
Right. He knows that's going to happen.
Disaster, abuse, natural disaster, even COVID, everything, you have to wonder why.
Yeah.
Because some of it doesn't make sense. Some of it seems in vain or pointless. And all I would like you to know and remind you is if we can get our heads in a framework of addressing it in a way that you're acknowledging it without it having power and remembering where the power is.
Right.
sometimes we're going to be in places in our walks with God where he's in front of us and all we're seeing is his back.
Yeah.
And we don't know why we can't see his face. We don't know why he's taking us in the direction he's taking us. We don't know why the terrain is so hard or narrow, or why it feels like even though he's going at a regular pace, we're struggling to keep up. But there is going to be a point where we meet those pastures in our walk where he's going to be able to turn and clean us up and take care of us. And it doesn't mean that he wasn't there. It just means that sometimes our focus has to understand that there are seasons that we go through with him that are not always easy, just like everything else in life.
Like being sick and not being able to breathe at night. This cold has been a struggle on my lungs. I had COVID in September of last year, and my lungs really haven't recuperated, and this is just bringing it all back. But I know that God is taking care of me. I know that every morning that I wake up is another good day, because it could have been the other way around. And I know that God is my light and my salvation and the truth that I live by. And so I just give all the glory to him, because he didn't have to give me another day, but he does.
And I just want to give you a lot of faith that there's faith and, the power in our words.
Yeah.
Do not worry about addressing truths. Your circumstances are true.
Yeah.
It's how you address it. You can say that you're in a tight spot and you might be dealing with a lot of debt or abuse or whatever it is. And you can address it as it is, straight truth. But the power it holds over what you say after is something that we have to sometimes remember.
Yeah.
How are we going to finish that sentence? Because the devil might have done this, but is he taking away your joy? Is he taking away your perspective? Is the storm taking away your ability to see God and now you're going under, even though you're on top of it? There's certain things that, and I'm not condemning anybody because I struggle with this too, but I just want to encourage you. Try to ask God to give you his perspective. And it might help you through whatever you're going through right now.
Yeah.
We love you. We encourage you that we are here with you. And as always, we enjoy our time fellowshipping with you. And wherever you are right now in the world, we hope we should be able to see you regularly. I don't think that we're going to have a relapse again like this, if we can help it.
I don't plan on it.
So we will see you next week. And as always, we love you and we hope that you stitch your way
to mental health.